Kris Kendall, host of Fulfilled After 40, the podcast. Today, I'm here with Lori. Hi, Lori.
Hi, Kris.
Um, we are going to be talking about some of the changes coming up in your life. So, why don't you go ahead and just jump into what you're thinking about?
I am currently 48. I am a single mom, which you would think my kids would be out of the house, but they're actually not. So I'm currently in a situation where I moved for a job down to Georgia. I did not have any family here, and that was a government position. And then I chose to switch over to industry, which was a big jump for me. And then because of a situation, my daughters and I were in a car accident. Then my daughters moved back in with me. And then actually, most recently, my parents have moved back in with me because they're having some changes with regards to their life. And I kind of feel a little bit like, how did I get here? And what do I do now? And where do I go from here? And so I'm definitely looking for some tips and tricks on sort of refocusing and figuring out what I want to do and how I get there. So that's where I am.
Okay, all right. So, the situation with your parents is temporary, or do you think it might end up being
So originally it is temporary. It was originally what I thought would be very temporary, and now it's more like a year. So I had anticipated sort of planning to move away from the state about a year ago. And then now, because I am here because of the kids, and then my parents said, "Oh, can we live with you temporarily? We need to move, we need to buy a different house and have it built." And now it's going to be probably another year, and that's if everything goes well. So,
Okay. All right. And
yes,
then your daughter living with you, do you think
yes.
that that's kind of long term?
So again, that was supposed to be temporary, and I thought we were getting to a point where it would be sooner than later that she would be figuring out her next plan, but she's not. And again, I'm happy to do this, but it sort of changed everything for me. And now I'm like sitting in a space where I need to figure out what do I want and how do I get there with these constraints. I love the constraints, but they still are constraints. So,
Right, right. Okay. So I think that that is a very important thing that you just said. What do you want? Like, if
yeah.
in 1 year from now you could have the perfect life, what does that look like?
So that is a great question. It's hard because I learned a lot living here on my own when I was truly an empty nester, and I moved here. I realized that it is hard if you don't live by, good friends or family. So I definitely, for me, I don't think I can stay in Georgia. Like, and there's no chance that any of my kids or my parents will be staying in Georgia. So I definitely need to figure out where I want to go. And I know that I don't know exactly the place that I need to go, but I do know that I need to go someplace to a bigger city, number one, because I do cybersecurity for my job. I do miss that aspect of it. So I would like to be able to be in a city that I can meet like a professional network and things like that. And then secondly, I do think I need to be within, closer proximity to family. So if something happens, or if I feel like I need people, that they are closer than where I am right now, which is the closest is about 8 hours. So yeah.
Okay. So
So
you have a
yeah.
few like areas in mind that you would
I
most
do.
likely
I
go?
do. So, I grew up on the West Coast. My best friends are on the West Coast, but I also did spend 20 years in Maryland. So I do have a pretty good professional and close network there. My sister, I have a twin. My twin lives in Oregon, so on the West Coast. My oldest daughter has moved to Oregon, and then my younger sister is in Maryland, and then my extended family is in New Jersey. So I kind of feel like those somewhere on the West Coast or maybe around the Maryland, DC area. But the problem with that is I don't feel like, well, the cost of living there and the cost of living in California in particular, like there's some trickiness with those areas. But again, I don't want to limit myself with that because there's obviously, since I switched from government, there's opportunities for employment and things like that that are commensurate with the area. But those are kind of the two regions. They don't have to be very close, but closer than, like I said, 8 hours. So yeah.
Okay. So of those, so between Maryland, Oregon, New Jersey, and California, if you could just have a great house
Yeah.
in any one of those places, it just magically appeared, which would you choose it? Where would you put that?
I probably would choose Oregon because my sister and my daughter are there, and my daughter is engaged. So I expect her to, start a family, and I would like to be closer to her. So I think realistically, if I had the perfect house, could get the job or keep my current job, that would probably be the area that I would be personally happiest with and probably could make it work professionally. Yeah, I think so.
Okay. So are there any reasons why it wouldn't work? Like, are there any barriers to you going to Oregon?
So, not necessarily barriers. I don't particularly love where my sister lives, but this is me being very granular. I know I have to think more
No,
in
think
the
however you
macro
want.
thing,
Yeah.
but because she lives kind of in a smaller area, and I cannot see myself, as a single woman in such a small sort of rural area. But again, that is not I guess the barrier is I would like to be I guess I would like to be close, but I guess that is close. I mean, really, truthfully, if I was living outside of Portland, that is very close to both my daughter and to my sister and her family. So the only other barrier I would say is just it's a big move, right? Across the country is a big move. It's a little scary. I haven't lived on the West Coast for a long time, but no, I don't think it's completely. I don't think there's any deal breakers with any of the issues. No, no.
Okay. And you've made big moves before.
I have. True. So
Okay. All right. So, what are some of the things you think would need to be in place before you could start planning a move to Oregon, for example?
yes. So this is the overwhelming piece of it, right? So I have I have a house here. It's full of my stuff, it's full of my parents' stuff, it's full of my kids' stuff. So really I would say the thing I would need to prioritize is really paring down a lot of the stuff. And I think a lot of people can appreciate that. The things you acquire along life, I would definitely not want to haul all of that across the country. So I think really figuring out what I really needed. I guess first I would also need to figure out what kind of house I would want to live in and what my plans would be moving there short and long term. And that would have to then I would be able to determine like what stuff to take with me. As far as really being here, I do work remote, so there's not really anything I need to do professionally, like with regards to, um, you know, moving an office or anything like that. So it's really for that from that perspective, it's primarily just focusing on like getting my younger one on her next sort of phase in life and then making sure that my parents can move on to their phase. And honestly, now that we're chatting about it, I'm not even completely tied to staying for the remainder of when they need to be here because like I said, because I don't physically work in the state, I work remote. I could actually, move earlier and sell the house at a later date. So I guess I need to think about that too. I know with the market and stuff. I mean, optimally, I would like to, you know, do it all together, but there really isn't anything necessarily holding me here. And now that we're discussing this, not even really actually my my family that's living here. So something to think about, I guess. Yeah.
Okay. So, you mentioned like what kind of house you would want to live in.
Yeah.
What are some options? What are you thinking?
So I think, you know, what I've thought about this a lot. So I don't really want to live like in an apartment. I think at this point in my life, I definitely want to live closer to like a bigger city where you could like go in to, like I said, have professional connections, maybe go to conferences. I want to live in a place where that is definitely accessible to me and not like a huge drive. But then I like living in not a rural part of a state, but like maybe more of the suburbs outside of a city so that, there's things to do, there's people to meet. It's not, a huge drive for entertainment or things like that. So, I don't need a particularly large house. So probably, something conservative for just myself and, that probably would be good enough. And then obviously for family to visit or whatever, but nothing, nothing particularly crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe like a cute downtown area or something.
Yeah,
Walk to
absolutely.
restaurants, walk
Yeah,
to
yeah,
shopping, but
yeah, absolutely. Yep.
yeah, okay, that would be cute. All right.
Yeah.
And so regardless of where you end up, chance it sounds like you're gonna probably be in a smaller house than what you're currently in now.
Yes, which is why I definitely need to downsize. I never intended on, moving from my prior house into the same size house. I thought I was downsizing when I came here. And then luckily I didn't downsize because now, like I said, I have a house full and I have for a little while now. So it is definitely something I need to prioritize for sure, is really figuring out what the things I need and getting rid of the superfluous sort of things you drag along with you. Yeah.
Yeah. So is that something you could start digging into now, like pick a room or an area or a
I
garage
definitely
or
can.
something?
Yeah, I think it's like one of those things that's not super fun, but if I break it up into sort of stages, definitely I can start attacking that. And that will help me sort of scope like my timeline of when I can realistically do something, right? So right now it's like just a lot of stuff. Yeah, no, definitely for sure. Yeah, figuring out what I absolutely need to take in like the rooms that are, the most significant for sure. Yeah.
And you have your parents at home with you, and I know
Yes.
because I know you personally, your dad is pretty helpful.
Yes.
So, maybe you could even take advantage of having him there, like,
Absolutely.
helping you.
Honestly, both my parents, they are retired and they have a lot of time. So, if I made lists, absolutely, I could get them to help me. That's something I have to sort of release the reins on. It's a little hard, but for sure, letting people go through that with some specific instructions could be hugely helpful because they have time, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Yeah, you
yeah,
got some
yeah.
live-in helpers, so take
Yes,
advantage of
yes.
that. Okay, so it sounds like, kind of the first steps would be, clearing away some of the clutter, some of the stuff that you would have to move just to make it a little bit less overwhelming to think about packing up and
Yes.
hauling across the
Yeah.
country.
Yes.
Um, and then maybe on your I don't know if you have a trip to Oregon planned anytime soon, but either talking to a realtor out there or starting to keep an eye on some of the areas, and if you talk to people out there and maybe get some suggestions on where these cute downtown areas are, because
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
might not necessarily know them, Lisa might not
Right.
necessarily know them, but
Right. Right. Yeah. No, that's a really good idea. And actually, now that we're talking about this, because it really is important to me that I do have a professional network and something I have missed in Georgia. I don't necessarily have that here. I should reach out and see in that local area, like what is there. And my job is very forgiving. I can definitely plan like a week out there and like engage with some of the professional organizations and see like where do those people live? Why do they live there? Yeah, no, I think that's a very good idea. And I actually really hadn't thought about that. So I should take a time instead of just going out and visiting with my sister and my daughter. I should actually like go and see what it would be like to work there, and like live there for real and see how it would interact with sort of that professional environment. Yeah, no, that's a good
yeah,
suggestion. Yeah.
right, and maybe do it during the rainy season, right? Since
Yeah, I
that's
know.
gonna be the biggest shock probably.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. For sure the weather. Although, I don't know, it's pretty hot down here. I think I'd take rain
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
over over
Okay,
hot,
all
sweaty
right,
summer.
good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
So it sounds like, it doesn't feel too overwhelming to get started, to get going on this path?
No, I mean, it's definitely overwhelming, like, just thinking of it as a big giant step, but I think if I take it iteratively and, like, start getting stuff set up and feel comfortable with the decision. Because that's the thing. I guess if I do go to Oregon and I don't like it, or I don't feel like the professional, network there is right for me, then that's very telling, right? So I can make that decision based off of that. I think, sort of exploring those areas, not visiting, but exploring them with the notion of thinking of like, maybe I want to live here. I think that would definitely be a different visit. So yeah, no, I think it's a little overwhelming,
Yeah,
but
yeah. Maybe
not,
find an
not,
Airbnb and
yeah,
stay in instead of
yeah,
a
yeah,
hotel. Yeah.
yeah. And just actually like literally work there and
Yeah,
just
live in a
feel
house and
what it feels like to work there. Yeah. No, that's a good idea. Yeah. Yeah.
all right, good, good.
All right.
Okay, are there any other things that, um, you wanna talk about today?
Yeah, so the only other thing that I definitely would like to, prioritize is like from a professional experience or from a professional perspective, um, I work in a predominantly male career field. And even with the best of intentions, the government, it was really swayed male versus female in the tech field. And then in industry, it's also like that. And so the other thing that I'm sort of thinking about right now is like my next career move and like, what do I want to do? And how do I build up the confidence to, take one of those positions that maybe are scary to take, or that, you always say, oh, I'm not qualified to do that. So that's the other kind of thing that I definitely want to explore in this session and future sessions is, battling with my own confidence, even though I know what I'm doing, is the confidence to kind of take that next career position that is a little scary. And, you know, so we
Yeah.
can
Okay.
chat a little bit maybe today and take it further in the future.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, so the first thing I would ask is when you're thinking about like the next career thing, is it more of just like a promotion type of thing from what you're doing now, or is it something completely different?
So I battle with this a lot. Like it's not, so I have a pretty high position in my current company. I spent most of my career in the government, so our sort of jobs were very hierarchical, and they're less hierarchical in private industry. So it's not that I want to do something that is like so much higher than what I'm doing, because I have a good position and I do manage a program and some people. But what I want to do and what is sort of important to me is I do really care about, my own personal technical development and the technical development of like future generation, making sure that STEM is advocated for. And so I would like to be able to have a position that is maybe more influential, if that makes sense. And it doesn't even have to be necessarily, like I said, hierarchical. Like I'm not looking to be a CTO or a CISO, I don't think. But I would definitely like to be in a position where I can influence, and encourage, diversity in my career field, particularly encouraging women to come into STEM. So I know I do work with some nonprofits for this, but I think that currently where I sit, I don't have that kind of influence, and I'm not sure how to explore like what would be the next best thing that would be fulfilling in my career for me. So yeah.
So, do you think that you would need a different job? Like, do you want a job specifically around that, like working in a nonprofit full time?
So I have thought about that. Definitely considered that. And just thinking about like long term, I think that would be something that would be very fulfilling. I just don't know enough about it because, like I said, my career has been predominantly with the government, public sector. And then now I'm in the private sector. And obviously, like we're a for profit. Our goal is not to do development. So I would like to figure out how to get into the right networks and sort of get some peer mentors and things like that. So I don't know, but I know that this won't be my last job.
Right, right.
I do want to grow, and I think that from my experience and from working with this company, you do need to be in a position of influence to have some meaningful impact on that. And so maybe a nonprofit, maybe a larger company that has that sort of outreach um would be intriguing, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, with in the short term, I mean,
Right.
obviously long term, it may require a job change or even just
Right.
you know, complete career change and kind of go into like more of a community focused
Right.
but in the short term, if you were to contact some of your local high schools
Hmm.
or junior highs, they probably have science programs and they would love to hear from you.
Yeah. That's a good idea. Just starting here, because that's true. I feel like even if this isn't something that, I mean, I have to accomplish in the next year per se, but like I do know that, they probably have an understanding of this local area, but then maybe potentially, the whole state and the whole country, even they might be connected to some of these programs. So that's a good idea. Yeah. I
Yeah,
mean,
so
maybe I will feel fulfilled if I just do it purely like on the side. I don't know, that's what I'm struggling with. Like, because I have the time. I am an empty nester technically. So what do I need to do to feel fulfilled? Because I do feel like that is something that is missing and that I did want to do when sort of my kids were out of the house. So
yeah. And, I don't know if I mean, this might be a little bit too much, but one thing that I know that I personally have considered over the years is like, big brother, big sister programs, that kind of thing.
yeah.
And that could be something that maybe if you were to look into and see if there's any girls that are interested in science,
Hmm.
or technology or coding, programming, whatever it is that you'd like to reinforce, and see if maybe there would be a match, and that like real one-on-one
Yeah.
impact might
Yeah.
be
No,
what you're
that's
looking
huge.
for.
Yeah. And they definitely have that stuff here. I had pursued some of it early on, but then COVID happened and I just kind of let that sort of die away. But they do have those programs even here in this smaller area. So I will definitely explore that. Yeah. And those kind of organizations are connected across not only the United States, but globally. So like, yeah, maybe there's something there that I can do. Yeah, no, that's a great idea.
Okay,
Good.
all right, good. Yeah, I mean, we'll definitely have to explore that a little bit more. I'll think about it too,
Okay.
on some of the ideas that could help you. But this is good. I think we
Good.
made some good
Yeah.
progress. I feel
We
like
did. Yeah, it's
um,
definitely helpful to talk through this stuff. Yeah, it definitely makes you do some introspection on things and just think about, instead of trying to tackle all of the things at the same time, sort of taking it, piece by piece. I think that's very helpful. So thank you. Yeah.
yes, of course, of course. All right, good. Well, thank you so much, Lori, for
Yeah,
joining us
thank
today.
you. Thank you. Great.
And we'll talk again in future sessions, but I hope you have a wonderful week.
You too. Thanks.
Hey, well, that was another great session. It was really fun to talk to Lori and exciting to hear about her plans for maybe a cross country move and some more community outreach that she's thinking about. So that's really cool. If you would like to have a session, please visit fulfilledafter40.com. You can either book a package, or if you'd like to be live on this podcast, you can have a free short session, just like Lori's, by signing up on the form right there on the page. Also, I wanted to let you know that I am doing a 2-day intensive. Um, so I will be taking clients, meeting them in any city in the country in the US, and working for 2 days, two full like 9-hour days with lunch and dinner included in there, to work through any of their business or life challenges that they're dealing with. And this is going to be like hands-on working session. We will dig into the systems, the software. I'll get you set up with accounting or email, nurturing, like whatever processes you need in place, we'll get those done. Whatever work needs to be done on your offers, whatever planning, research, etc., we'll just make it happen. So you're really going to get like 2 months worth of work done in 2 days. So we're just going to dig in and get you to that next stage. So if that's something that you're interested in, check out the site under business coaching. You'll see the intensive information there. And I look forward to talking to you next time.